Welcome to part 2 of the flight computer discussion. So next we were on the flight and we were receiving some data but not receiving some data. We mentioned that we had a red X over our wind vector, and also we had to figure true airspeed. So we had a red X over the true airspeed on our G2000. And I asked for bonus points, what system is affected? Well, the air data computer is what was affected. And if you said the GDC 74 alpha was affected, an extra bonus point to you. But it's the air data computer. So, in the first question, we talked about not having a wind vector, but we knew what our heading we were flying, and we knew the course over the ground. We also knew our ground speed, and we knew our true airspeed. So we can use the wind side of the computer to figure out what the wind is. And there's a private pilot written test question that has this same, it's basically asking the same thing just with different numbers. And I know since there's only one of those on the test that most people just memorize the answer. But here's how we would actually figure it and use it if we had to. So we would follow the steps of the wind side of the computer, only we have to think of them in reverse because we have some of the information that we would have at the end of all the steps that we did. So we have to think about where things are set when we finish, when we're in those bottom steps of the wind side of the computer. So the first thing is, when we are finished, what is set under the true index? Well, under the true index would be our true course. And in this case, we were given a true course of 288 degrees. So let's go ahead and set 288 under the true index. When we come to the end of our solving, what is under our center point? Under our center point would be our ground speed. So we were told our ground speed is 215 knots. So we will slide until the center is over 215. Now, we are on a true course of 288, but we're on a heading of 281. So, 281 is 7 degrees less than 288. So if you look at the top of your card, when we are minus or less than our true heading, we are on the left side of our card. So our wind mark will be from the left of our center line. How far left? 7 degrees. Now, what is that mark on top of? Well, if we look at our steps, our mark at the end should be above our true airspeed arc. Our true airspeed was 204 degrees, so we will make a mark on the 204 degree arc. And if we rotate that mark where it's in line with the center line, move our dot down to the 100, we will see that we have a wind of 172 degrees at about 27 or 28 knots. Now, if you don't believe me, you could take an electronic E6B, go to missing wind, enter our numbers, and we come up with about the exact same thing. So that is how we solve for missing wind when we're actually in the airplane flying and we know some of our parameters. Now our other question was to determine our true airspeed, because now in the G2000, like we mentioned, it would give us the air data computer would tell us our true airspeed, but I said it had a red X in it. So we're going to figure it with the computer. So how do we go about that? Well, on the front side of the computer again, we have some instructions. So always read your instructions and follow your instructions and you'll come to the right answers. So it says, for airspeed correction, set our pressure altitude, which in this case we didn't have an altimeter setting, so we'll just use 12,500 feet, opposite our degrees Celsius. Now we said in our, we had an outside air temperature of 12 degrees Celsius. So in the small window just above our instructions, we will set 12,500 across from 12 degrees positive C. Don't use 12 degrees negative. Your answer will come out wrong. So if we continue to read our instructions, it will say calibrated airspeed. And for this question, since we don't have a POH, we'll just substitute indicated airspeed for calibrated airspeed. We'll call them the same thing. So it will say that calibrated airspeed is on the inside, and the true airspeed will be opposite it on the outside. So if we go, we have our calibrated airspeed or indicated airspeed of 155 knots. So if we go to 155 on the inside and then look to the outside, it will be across from 194. So our true airspeed is 194 knots. Again, don't believe that it came out right? Well, let's look at the electronic E6B. We'll enter all that same information, and it comes up with about exactly what we came up with using the wheel style E6B. So when would we use something like that? Well, an instrument pilot might use that, because remember, if we have a change of true airspeed, there's certain times we have to notify ATC of any changes. So we're right on the cusp here, okay, our 5% or 10 knots, whatever's greater. At 204 knots, it's 10.2, okay, would be 5%. So, and we're 10 knots off. All right, so we would be right there on the cusp of having to notify ATC if we were an IFR pilot. So, how'd you do? Did you have fun? I had fun. I always have fun with the E6B. So, thanks a lot for playing along. Coming up later this week, we'll do a video on some similar to our first IFR challenge, but it'll be with the GPS unit. And we'll also do a video for Flight School for You about some differences in flying in some foreign airspaces as we fly down the islands here. We fly in the Netherlands and France and Britain, technically, as you fly to some of the different islands. So we're going to talk about some changes that we make and then stuff that we look for that's a little different than flying in American airspace for pilots that are interested in coming down. So look for that one coming up. And then also anything you'd like to see on a video, go ahead and comment, and we'll see what we can do about making a video about that topic. Thanks a lot. See you next time.